Talks with Kip Capley. How's it going, Chris?
Doing great, Lawrence. Doing great after this great Thanksgiving weekend, and I hope everybody out there had a blessed and wonderful Thanksgiving with their families. I know I did. I hope you did as well. And, it seems like Wednesday we were here talking, and you and I haven't talked since Wednesday.
No, we really haven't.
But it's great to see you. And our 13-year-old producer said, "Hey, y'all got to get with it. It's time to start."
we were too busy doing other things, weren't we?
That's right. We're trying to get prepared for what we need to talk about, but we want to let everybody know that Kip's absent this week. They are having a legislative retreat for all state legislators over at Fall Creek Falls and East Tennessee. So
yeah.
I hope they learn a lot. I hope they do the right thing. That's all we can count on.
Hopefully Kip will grab a hold of some of them and say, "Hey, you need to be more conservative
come around to
like
my
me."
way of thinking.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Because I'm going to tell you something. I mean, between Kip, we're just, I know we beat this drum to death, but we're so blessed to have Kip Capley and Clay Doggett, and then you got Joey Hensley. These guys just, they really help our area and the conservatism. I wish all of our Republicans that are currently elected were as conservative as they were.
Yeah, but right off the bat, shout out to strikers.
Hey, got to give strikers a shout out, don't we?
That is exactly right. I actually had some of their food last night.
Did you really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So shout out to strikers.
Man, I didn't get invited?
Well, we are calling you No Show Orlando.
Oh, is that it?
We have nicknamed you a new name, and I won't tell you where that came from, but there was a breakfast at West End Community Center Saturday.
Yeah.
Or were you? You were MIA.
Yeah, I was missing in action, wasn't I?
Yeah, and then yesterday, where there's good fellowship out at Brandon's, and use MIA again.
Yeah, I have a feeling that either came from Brandon or that came from Jim Barth. That would be my two guesses there.
Well, there's a guy that's got some initials that was talking about you, too.
Oh, well, yeah. JC Wisdom, he's always on me, so
yeah,
I get it. I hear you.
But, hey, listen, shout out Strikers. Go get you. If you hadn't ate there lately, go up there and get some great food, great hospitality, great service. Have nothing
great
bad.
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere. Have nothing bad to say about them.
Absolutely not. So I'm going to tell you something. I feel like we're getting in the election season is starting, and I'm going to tell you why. I have a reason for this. Have you noticed that China is now announcing that they have a new child virus that is sweeping across China? Have you heard about this?
I haven't heard about it because I've kind of kept myself out of the loop this weekend, paying attention to things you need to really focus on, and being thankful for things that I have in my life, and just kind of tuned everything out. You didn't hear, we didn't communicate.
No, we didn't.
So no, this is a surprise to me, but it does not surprise me in the least. So I agree with you. Yes, look out, folks. Here it starts.
Yeah, we got election season starting, so we got to get a new crisis. What was it? David Axelrod said, "Don't let any good crisis go to waste." The guy that kind of ran President Obama's campaign.
Yeah, that idiot.
Yeah.
Or thug idiot. Let's put it out there because, Axelrod was a complete moron.
Well, I tell you what, he got a person that we never heard of in 2004. If I told you in 2004, have you ever heard of Barack Obama, who was just a community organizer at that point? You'd have looked at me and said, "Who? Who's that?"
That's true.
But within 4 years,
he got him elected.
President.
He got him elected first to the House in
the Senate?
Well, to the Senate. Excuse me. To the Senate in the Republic's People of Illinois.
That's right.
People's Republic of Illinois.
Yeah, and then a year and a half later, the man was president.
Yeah, amazing.
It was amazing. But yeah, I just...
And I'm not even sure he's a U.S. citizen to top that off.
Who, Barry?
Barry, Barack Obama.
You don't think Barry's a citizen?
Or maybe Michael, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Michelle, excuse me.
Yeah. Okay, you said the quiet part out loud again, didn't you?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I've never seen a birth certificate. Have you?
No, and I don't think one has ever been produced to this day.
Yep.
But the downfall of this nation, as we're in today, all goes back to Barack Obama. They love blaming everything on Donald Trump, but Barack Obama is where this country started sliding. It's gone down a slippery slope. Yeah, Trump did the roadblock and had it turned around going on the northbound train. Then we get master of disaster, Joe Biden.
Well, I'm going to tell you something.
And he's not running it.
I will tell you this. The only thing he can tell you is maybe what ice cream he ate.
Or when he runs to the bathroom.
Right. But I'm just going to tell you, if anybody said that we are better off today than what we were when Trump was still in office, I would want to have your head examined. But you know what? That's the reason we live in America. We are able to voice our own opinions.
We're
thankfully.
entitled to our opinion.
We are, but you know what? You may be entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with our fake news media. Our fake news media wants to give their opinions as facts, Chris. And to me, I really believe that is very dangerous, doing that. But anyway, this new child virus is coming out in China. It is a major respiratory virus. It is spreading throughout China. I mean, it's North China, South China. The hospitals right now are overrun. You got people panicking. And, I don't believe everything that I hear out of China. But I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm thinking, you know what? This is just in time for the election season, to come on. I tell you the other thing that the Biden administration is doing, and I'm going to tell you this right now, Chris. You need to hear me, because I don't know if I've said it on air, but I have been talking to people that we're about to hit a deflationary period in our economy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, not inflationary, deflationary. And don't think deflationary is a good thing. Okay?
It's very bad.
It can be very bad. So the Biden administration right now has just announced that they are going to use what we called the Cold War era law to help lower U.S. prices, whether it's on gas, whether it's on food. And this just came out today. The administration announced this today. But I'm going to tell you something. I've noticed this over the last month, and that's the reason I've been kind of sounding the alarm on this.
With gas prices going down.
Gas prices going down. I'm watching food going down. One of my butter that we buy a lot, I noticed that in the last month it has dropped 30 cents. This butter. I've noticed the price of chicken has come down. It was $2.99 a pound. I've been seeing it at $2.64 or $2.65 or $2.75 a pound. So I'm watching some prices starting to come down, and I'm going to tell you something. It's because people don't have money, and people aren't spending money like they were, Chris, because they've ran out of the money.
Credit card charges are going up.
Yes, and that's the other thing is that we are at an all-time high. I just read a report that we're at an all-time high, America is, for debt. And that is a recipe of disaster. So when you have a lot of debt and you have high debt, high cost,
high inflation,
less money to spend, you're going to start seeing that trend go downwards. It's kind of like during the Great Depression. There for about a 30-year period of time, between the 30s through about 1960, there was not really much of a price increase in anything because people did not have money.
Disposable income.
That's right. So I'm going to tell you something. The disposable income is going away. But the Biden administration, they're going to try to piggyback on this and go, look, we've lowered prices. I'm going to tell you something. They can't. They have a trouble changing Joe Biden's diaper. They're not. Do you think they're really going to be able to lower prices? I mean, come on. I mean, if they do, they're doing it as as a way to try to get elected again. But I'm going to tell you, with anything else that our government does, like Ronald Reagan said, the most scariest words in the human language is, I'm here with the government and I'm here to help. Okay? We're not going to get any help. We're just in election season. Election season's coming up. Chris, me and you both know. There is no sense with what's happening in the Middle East. And if you don't think the Middle East is on fire, then you're not paying attention. You got Russia, who is another huge exporter, or used to be a huge exporter of oil. Mm-hmm. We are only seeing prices go down because people aren't spending money. We have an influx of products. So, I'm going to tell you this. Take advantage of it while you can. Because if we do not get a responsible administration starting in January 2025, we are in for a world of hurt.
Worse than this
the Great
country.
Depression.
That's
Worse
right.
than the Great Depression.
Worse than this country has ever seen since its birth.
That's correct.
And it's so sad that it took this administration with the help of a previous administration, because Biden put most of the people on the cabinet that was on the Obama administration.
Absolutely. It's just
the writing's on the wall.
You know, people make this comments and they tell jokes, but there's a saying out there, for every joke, there's some truth to it. But, you know, everybody kept calling Biden, "Oh, Biden," you know, because it's just Obama again. Mm-hmm. And let's don't forget what Obama said about Joe Biden when Obama first heard he was running for president. He says that Joe Biden never, let's see, how did he say this? You know where I'm going with this?
I know where you're going, but I would have to look it up.
Okay. But Obama said basically this, that if anything Biden touch, he is going to blank it up. Yeah. Or I'll just say screw it
sort
up.
of like master of disaster.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
And I do remember that's the way I coined it. He's calling him the master of disaster, when ultimately Barack Obama, you were the master of disaster.
Well, I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, you know, at least Obama does. I mean, don't make no.
He's a full-blown activist.
He is.
Full-blown socialist.
He's a Marxist.
He's a Marxist from the word go. Right out of the gate.
He was raised by Marxists.
Yeah.
He was raised by communists. He agrees with them. So
look who he surrounded himself with. Look at that crazy preacher.
Oh, Jeremiah Wright.
Jeremiah Wright.
Then you have
Farrakhan.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Farrakhan. To me, he's crazy, but there's a lot of things that Farrakhan will say that'll make sense. I mean, you may not want to hear it, but he'll say some things that'll make sense more so than what Jeremiah Wright or Obama does.
Obama, yeah, true.
I mean, I'm not defending Farrakhan by any means. I mean, he hates Jews. He hates white people.
He's a full-blown racist.
He is. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I could actually sit down and have a cup of coffee with him, because I know exactly where he's coming from, and he don't hide who he is.
Sort of like our friend Richard Archie,
right,
with Tennessee Firearms, had a sit-down interview with Van Jones.
I know.
And that's one of Obama's czars.
Man, I tell you what, I just can't picture that ever being released. I'm going to tell you. I hope it is, Chris. But I have a feeling that Richard handed him his butt so bad that they will never release that tape. They'd have to carve up too much of it.
Well, Van Jones' personal assistant said there's nobody that's ever put Van in his place like Richard did.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, our legislators, whether it be the House or Senate, they fear to see this man. This man knows the Constitution, both the state and federal Constitution, backwards, forwards, upside down, and every which way you can turn it. He knows it north, south, east, west.
I'm going to tell you something. If all Americans made it their priority to know their Constitution like Richard Archie does, then we would not
wouldn't
be
have
in the
this
mess.
problem.
We would not be in the mess we're in now.
So let's open this up a little bit.
Yeah.
This goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. And I mentioned to you when I sat down, I came in here on 2 wheels again.
Yep.
And dealing with things, I tell people, and I say it, the worst thing about being a Republican is being a Republican.
Right. There's a lot of truth to that.
We're at each other's throat all the time. We're nitpicking over things that is no more than a pimple on a gnat's butt. But we get hung up on minors. We major on a minor.
Right.
And we can't see the forests for looking at the trees. So one thing that I mentioned to you when I sat down with a minute before we went on air,
right,
we need to be telling people about our Constitution.
Yes.
And you need to know your state constitution. Now, folks, for anybody out there who watches this, who views it through YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, however they look at this, I have free constitutions for anybody who wants to message and say, hey, I'd like to have a constitution. Now, I'm not going to mail it to you. I can bring them to the radio station here at WDXE. Shout out to WDXE and WLX.
Yes.
I can bring it here, and you can gladly pick up one free if you're interested. You better know your Constitution, your federal Constitution, but you need to know your state Constitution as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be working with Representative Doggett and Representative Capley to get us some copies of the Tennessee Constitution.
Amen.
I have a copy.
Yeah, but those are so hard to find.
They're rare.
And if you do find them, they're like $25 or $30, on Amazon or something. I mean, you just can't find them.
I think this is something the state should produce and give out to the citizens.
That's right.
There's so much, we want to give away free trigger locks. Let's give away free state constitutions.
Right.
Okay? And I think our great conservatism, and including Senator Hensley and Senator Wally for y'all's area, will make sure we can get our hands on these.
You know what? I think that's extremely important, Chris. We take our rights for granted.
We do. And we don't educate ourselves.
We don't. Well, and if you do not educate yourself, especially on history, you are doomed to repeat it.
That's exactly right, and this is what's happening. I feel so strong, and I'll say this, the 917 Society, which puts out the pocket constitutions.
Right.
And
I have some. Thank you for those.
And thank you very much. I'm a member of the 917. Mm-hmm. And I want you to understand, and all you school board members that may listen to us, directors of schools, the 917 Society is an approved curriculum for the state of Tennessee. We don't have to ask for a school board's permission to put the constitutions into the school hands, or into the schools, into the hands of the children.
And I would say this: any school board or any teacher, anything else that would say that we needed permission for that needs to be fired.
Well, let me give you an example: Giles County.
Okay.
What goes on in Giles can rub off in Lawrence,
right?
As you well know.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I was trying to be courteous and went to the school board and was asking for permission, which I didn't have to.
No.
And to put these in, and then the school board attorney said, well, what if the Democrat Party? I said, wait a minute. I'm putting in our Constitution. It ain't about a party. And I tossed him one, and I said, maybe you need to read the Constitution. Right there at the school board meeting.
Good for you.
And I wasn't joking. I was dead serious.
Yes.
Okay? And the thing about it is, the government needs to realize, hear me, government, whether you be the local, whether it be your county commissioners, your school boards, your county executive or county mayors, or your state reps, or your state senators, or your U.S. congressmen, or your U.S. senators, you work for us.
That's right.
Whether you like it or not, you work for us. we have got the role of government has gone so wacky that it gets to the point, don't believe me, educate yourself.
Right.
And I want to share this.
Okay.
We are the head of government.
Absolutely we are.
We are the head of government. The government, or I put in parentheses, politicians, work for us.
And what do we call our politicians? We call them representatives.
Representatives.
They go there to represent our best interests, not their best interests. And I tell you what, I'm frankly sick and tired of these people going up and representing their best interests.
Their best interest or their political PACs.
That's correct.
Best interest.
Yes.
You know, and I'll dive off in that in just a second. But one of the best people who ever represented this great state was a man by the name of Davy Crockett.
Yep.
Can you imagine going up there with your long gun, long rifle, your musket, and your coonskin hat, and representing the great state of Tennessee in Washington? You know what Davy Crockett did one time? He came back from Washington, and he asked a fellow East Tennessean, how am I doing as your representative? And he said, not worth a damn.
Yeah.
You ever read that story?
I have not.
And what happened, you remember Georgetown right outside of D.C. burned.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
And Georgetown came begging for money from the federal government and wanted money. Well, Davy Crockett voted to give $20,000 of U.S. taxpayers' money to rebuild Georgetown. And that's not the role of government.
Well, at least they did it for the United States. At least they're not giving $20 billion or $200 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah. Hey, don't that just make your blood? I believe you're hitting what, 208 right now. You're getting close to 212 to the boiling point.
Right.
But
and that's my blood pressure.
Oh Lord, I don't want to have to do any resuscitation on you. Just stay calm.
No, just let me die, Chris.
But anyway, just let you die. But anyway, the thing about it is, here we are, and you know, even city governments, whether it be the city of Lawrenceburg, city of Pulaski, county governments, the county of Lawrence, county of Giles, they give away taxpayers' money right now.
Right.
To organizations, to like, and I'm not picking on them, Boys and Girls Club. If the taxpayers, if a person as an individual wants to donate to them, I support them. I'm not against them.
Right.
But I don't think you should be taking taxpayers' fund to fund the Boys and Girls Club at $10,000 a year or $5,000 a year.
But you know where this problem really started, Chris? I'm going to tell you where it really started. And we've said this a lot, and I think you know where I'm going. It started in the church house.
That's right.
The churches gave over the responsibility to the government and put the government in charge of charity, when it should have been is the churches from the beginning.
And the communities.
And the communities. And that 501c3 that these churches ran to. And I'm going to tell you something. To me, I rail against the 501c3 because if you feel like you need to be a church to get that tax break or to have your parishioner give money to the church so they can get that tax break, you ain't giving that money to God. You're giving that money to government. And I'm going to tell you something. That's when Jesus talked about in the New Testament, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing.
That's right.
But we're going to run to that 501c3, which is a non-for-profit, which gives the churches, so people that are listening, it gives the churches non-for-profit, for their money. I'm going to tell you something. If you really think the reason that you're giving money to your church is to get a tax break, you're giving for the wrong reasons. I'm sorry. I hate saying that.
Well, at the same token, why did our forefathers want to separate from the crown?
That's correct.
They wanted separation of church and state, and the left has took that, the ACLU, all these left-wing organizations, they flipped that every which way but right of the true meaning. And what people don't realize is that England owned the churches.
That's correct.
And they wanted separation, and over here they wanted each church to stand on its own merit.
You know what other country owned their churches here recently? And in the past? It was Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Do you see the pattern here, Chris?
Right.
What happens when government gets involved?
It becomes a monarchy.
Not only does it become a monarchy, but it always leads to fascism.
Right.
It always, what the left claims that the right does is really they're projecting what they're doing. And they're trying to say, oh, look over here, look over here.
They spin it.
They spin it. And that's not true because me personally, I'm all about for freedom. I want freedom. It is your freedom to be an idiot even. But I tell you what is not your freedom. It's not your freedom to take away my rights trying to use your opinion, especially when it goes against our Constitution.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you something, and I've been telling this to our elected officials. I will disagree with you on some things, but I will support you. I will stand behind you as long as you leave that Constitution alone.
As long as you're doing what the Constitution says.
Amen. But you know what? We're not doing that. Just like you said, there's so much infighting going on. I mean, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not going to name them, okay? But we have some elected officials that I have disagreements with things that they have voted on and things that they have done, okay? But as long as they keep our Constitution protected, I will still stand behind them and I will still help them because we all have a difference of what we believe in.
Right, opinions.
And our opinions. And if it gets so bad that I think it's hurting us as a state or hurting us as a county or something, then yeah, maybe it's time to get rid of them.
Well, this is something that's very important. State power is delegated by the people. So, state of Tennessee, let's stay in our state boundaries.
Yep.
The power is delegated by us, we, the people. That's why your Declaration of Independence starts out with we, the people. And we forget about that. Our legislators forget about we, the people, that they work for us. Now, each state, who is in charge? The federal government or the state? Who has the power?
The states should have the power.
Who formed the federal government?
The states did.
The colonies back then.
Yeah, the original 13 states.
And
yes.
Now they formed it, and that power is still there, even though we're 50 states strong today. It's still the states have the power over the federal government.
That's right.
So, I hear of the 10th Amendment nullification, which I'm for. I'm
Yes.
not against nullification. But when Barack Obama issued an executive order, and we may have had a Democrat governor, Phil Bredesen, for the state of Tennessee at the time, when this executive order that all states would make same-sex marriage legal. He's wrong. And every governor in all 50 states who let the federal government bend you over and you take it without standing up for we, the people, you were wrong. Every governor who was in governorship at that time should have stood up and said, hell no, we're not taking this.
Well, I'm going to take it a step further than that even. People say that, and a lot of your LGBT people, they say, well, Jesus never preached against homosexuality. He didn't have to. He didn't have to. Because it was known, it was understood. But you know what Jesus did said? Jesus said marriage was between one man and one woman. Not one man and one man, not one woman or one woman. But you know what?
Or not one man and 5 women.
Look, hey, I'm going to tell you, that was the other thing that these people, and if you notice, they just keep adding letters, to their LGBT.
The alphabet people.
The alphabet people. You know what that was about? I'm going to tell you what that was about. It was about destroying God's family, is what they're doing. Now we're getting into pedophilia. Now we're getting into multiple partner marriages because of what happened in 2012. Here's the other thing. The government has no business, and I had to watch it. I about cussed on this one. The government has no business being in marriage to begin with.
That's right.
That is between the two people, the man and the woman. I almost messed up, said two people. The man and the woman getting married, and God. That has nothing to do with our government.
They have no business in abortion.
Absolutely. Well, nobody has any business with abortion.
There should not even be a thought of abortion.
Yes.
And I say this time and time again, if you don't want children, go get yourself spayed or neutered.
Right.
That's your right.
It is your right.
And quit pissing and moaning and expecting the taxpayers, and shout out to Tommy Tuberville, because he's took a stand of where our government in the military is sending people from the state of Tennessee and the state of Alabama, where abortion is totally illegal, to states where they will pay, the federal government will pay for an abortion.
Well, they're even paying for sex changes now, even.
And this is ludicrous. And we should be demanding, we should be burning Senator Haggerty's phone up, Senator Blackburn's phone up, your U.S. congressman. They need to listen to we the people, whether they like it or not.
Well, it goes down to what Isaiah said and what God said in the end times, that good will be called evil and evil will be called good.
Well, it's the same thing in Romans chapter 13.
Uh-huh.
You need to read Romans chapter 13. And people, I love it when CBS Sunday morning show yesterday morning, man, I just wanted to reach through that TV and grab this preacher who calls himself a so-called minister of God's Word. He's not. He said politics doesn't belong in the church house.
Yeah, well, that was the misnomer. But see, that all started with the 501c3.
501c3. I said, this blooming idiot. Yes, sir. I wish somebody would send this to CBS this morning, Jane Pauley. I get so sick and tired of the TV polarizing Americans on untruths, unconstitutional untruths. And you're doing it, and you keep trying to drive it home. You keep on and on and on until you're polarizing Americans to thinking it's the truth.
Well, I mean, but that's what media does. And I mean, even, going back to Germany again, I mean, we are looking at America turning into Germany. I'm just telling you that. Except in America, it's going to be the Christians. It's not going to be the Jews. But I see this happening, and it's like Joseph Goebbels said, if you tell a lie long enough, it'll be believed.
I think I've heard this where if you tell it at least 10 times, it becomes the truth. So people believe it.
So, we a lot of times we don't take calls just because we can't. But we did have our friend Gary in Columbia. Shout out to Gary. Gary sent us this. He's listening now. Gary said, this is what actually Obama said, never underestimate Biden's ability to blank things up. That was the exact wordage that he used. And Gary also made a very good point that, we're sitting here, we're talking about the Constitution and getting free constitutions. And this, and we forget about these things, Chris, and thank you, Gary, for reminding of this. But people can get a hold of the Tennessee Constitution for free by contacting the Tennessee Secretary of State for a Tennessee Blue Book.
And that's Secretary of State Trey Hargett.
Right. So you can contact the Tennessee Secretary of State, and you can get a free blue book sent to you that will have the Tennessee Constitution in there. So I have 2 blue books. That's when I first met Clay Doggett. Clay didn't know me from Adam, but he was over here filling for David Byrd when David Byrd was sick and doing things. Met me, met my daughters, and said, you know what, I'm going to send your daughters each a Tennessee Blue Book. And he signed it and sent it to me. Kept his word. And I'm like, wow, a politician kept his word. And that started getting me to think, you know what, maybe not all politicians are bad, but I'm going to tell you something. People need to understand this. And when that guy said, that preacher, that so-called preacher said that the church has no business being in politics or have no interest in politics, you're so wrong. Because make no mistake, just because you're not interested in politics doesn't mean that politics isn't interested in you. And that is what's happening. It's systematically happening to our country, is because so many people like me, yes, me, okay, that ignored it. And people, you got to get off the couch, because you cannot ignore this any longer. Because just because you're not interested doesn't mean they're not interested, and they are destroying our country, Chris.
Well, I've heard Brandon Taylor, LGBT. Let's go, Brandon Taylor. I had to throw it at him since we were talking about No Show Orlando, so we give it back a little bit. But he coined it right. It started in the church house.
Right.
All of our miscommunications, misrepresentations is where preachers who preach the Word of God are scared to really open up and tell it like it is. Yes, you heard me right. There are people who are in the pulpit. They're more worried about who's putting money in that collection plate or tithing, okay?
Right.
Than they're worried about preaching the gospel.
Right.
Or hurting somebody's little petty feelings. Yes, the Bible condemns homosexuality.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't support it. God loves everybody.
God loves everybody.
He hates the sin.
And you know what? Here's the crazy thing is people are going to come out and say, well, look at the Old Testament. The Old Testament, they killed them. Yes, they did.
They stoned your butt.
They did. But you know what? That's the reason Jesus died on the cross for us, is to bring mercy for humanity, because humanity didn't have mercy for themselves. And a lot of times people, they misunderstand the Bible in this. The Bible was written and given, especially the Old Testament, to the Jews, who are, as God says, a thick-necked, hard-headed people. Okay? So, but what Jesus did on the cross, and when you take anything away from what Jesus did on the cross, you're taking away from the Bible as well. And most people don't understand that.
Well, let me go back to just a little bit, and I'm going to tidy up on this, because I really want people to get involved in their Constitution, both federal and state. I want you to learn that state is equal to independent government.
Right.
Each state is independent of its own state.
Right.
Okay? So that's equal to independent government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If any constitutional so-called attorneys that's on the left want to challenge me, bring it on. I'm ready. Now, government was created for one reason. You know what that is?
Yeah, to protect their people.
To secure our rights.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Protect our people, protect our borders.
That's right.
Did I say the quiet part out loud again?
Borders.
Protect our borders. They're supposed to protect our borders. They're
doing a piss poor job of it.
Piss poor job. They're not doing any job.
They're not doing anything. They've left us wide open. The federal government has failed its people.
Yes, it has.
It has failed its people, and it's time that we take back our country.
So, this is funny. I've been talking to talking to our producer and everything about, when people are putting in on the live chat so we can see it and hear it. And one of the questions that somebody brought up, Christians, they said, do not have They're not the only ones that get married. And I want to answer that real quick. You are 100% right. We're not. So guess what I'm saying? Government has no business in marriage, period. I will even go so far as to say this. Even though it's against God, government has no business in marriage, even if it's between a man and a man or a woman and a woman.
Right. And
whatever.
Also, we'll carry it one step further. Government has no right in saying you had to have a marriage license.
That's right.
That's just another fee
So if
the government is taking away from you and me.
So whether you're a Satanist, a paganist, a Muslim, anything, it is between your God and yourself for marriage, not government.
That's exactly right.
So I want to clear that up and make everybody understand that. And yes, you heard me correctly. It is against God's law. But if you want to go break God's law, you can go ahead and break God's law. I have no problem with that. I will warn you ahead of time. I will try to tell you what's coming.
That's all you can do.
That's all I want to do.
That's right.
And it's not hate speech. Hate speech is when you tell somebody that they can do something and it's good for them when it's not. It's like if you go tell a child, are you going to go tell a child, oh, go stick your hand in that socket, it won't bite?
Or put your hand on a hot eye on the oven.
That's correct.
It won't burn you.
That's correct. And seeing that's what people do and I don't care what the sin is. When you condone the sin, when you're condoning the sin,
you're part of the problem.
You are part of the problem. Period. End of story. So I'm going to clear that up, but I say keep bringing the questions because when we have time, we will take questions like this and answer them.
Right. Now I want to point out something else.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bureaucrats. Yes, the TBI is a bureaucrat.
Oh, Lord.
FBI. They are just bureaucrats, and what really ticks me off is when we have Second Amendment and you got the brass of the THP and of the TBI showing up and lobbying against it on taxpayers' dollars. That's wrong. So undelegated power, you know what it equals to?
What's
Undelegated power, let me say it loud and clear, for government officials out there is theft.
Amen.
Undelegated power is pure OD theft.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And if I'm making some politicians mad, you got the same britches to get glad in.
Yes, you do. You know what's kind of funny is the media is losing their mind right now.
They don't know whether to crap or go blind.
Right. For the releasing, Mike Johnson is releasing the January 6 tapes.
40,000 hours? Is that right? 44,000?
I don't know the exact number, but this is what I do know. When we have fake news media losing their
CNN.
mind. Oh, all of them.
MSNBC.
CBS. We can keep going.
CNBC.
They are losing their mind. As a matter of fact, one of them, CNN, is saying this on air. And I can't believe that they're saying this, but it just shows you how stupid they think the American public is. They said releasing of these tapes is dangerous because it shows what the inside of the Capitol and stuff looks like.
You can go look at it yourself.
That's what I'm telling you what they're saying.
People's house.
I'm telling you what they're saying.
That's so asinine.
It's like Laura says, our 13-year-old producer over there. She goes, it doesn't matter how big the hammer is, you can't fix stupid. And no truer words have been spoken.
Come on, Jeff Foxworthy, you coined that phrase, you can't fix stupid. Here's your sign.
Here's your sign. So I'm just going to tell you something. That is.
I want to share one other thing with you, and this brings it to a close. And we'll, in the coming weeks, folks, if you like what Lawrence and I are talking about, and we'll talk more about this on Free Speech News that we do every Friday, but I want to educate people, and I think this is a good outlet, on their Constitution.
Right.
And if you got any questions, please call it in to the radio station and let somebody at the station take your question, and we'll gladly answer it on air. Now, the Constitution, whether it's your federal or state Constitution, guess what? Other than the Bible being the most important document ever written, the Constitution is the second most important document. But your Constitution, both federal and state, is the supreme law of the land. Period. End of discussion.
Yep.
So, some of the things I've been going through, it's talking about down to your aldermen in your cities, your commissioners in your county commission, but the most important elected position in any county, in any great state in this union, is the office of sheriff.
Yes, it is.
And folks, you better be shaking the tree and asking the hard questions to your sheriff to know if he's a constitutional sheriff or not.
Well, I can tell you this.
I understand over here,
John Myers.
But we need to really hone in on these sheriffs because I respect Senator Wally the other night when he was here in the studio with us last week. I told him, thank you for standing up for what happened in Chester County. But in the same token, he turned around and was talking about what a great sheriff that county has.
Yeah.
I think that sheriff would make himself even greater if he issued arrest warrants for those folks who came in and murdered, yes. That's a 45-year-old honorable discharged veteran. And I know there's been crickets.
Yep.
Nobody is doing anything. And that is a shame that it happened in Chester County, but also there was an arrest of a guy in Hickman County for his free speech. And I got Obama on the brain. Biden used the FACE Act to arrest 11 people who peacefully protested or prayed outside of an abortion clinic in Mount Juliet. And it's everything is, the government is trying to be the exalted ruler when the government works for the people. We don't work for the government.
I'm going to tell you something. We had another text come in, and I'm going to tell you, Gary is on it today. Gary says you can actually get a floor plan of the Congress building on the internet.
Oh, Lord.
I didn't know that, but still, we've seen enough of I've been inside. I actually went and have toured the Capitol. So, I'm just
I have too.
I'm just trying to say how stupid it is for the media to say, well, the reason these tapes don't need to be released is because people are going to see the floor plan and maybe know how to do something in the Capitol. I don't know. I'm done with the stupid
That's
people.
your left.
It is your left, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. But you know what? Here's the thing. We're for freedom. So even freedom to go do stupid things, even freedom if you want to harm yourself. We're just trying to help. We want to be the watchman on the wall to tell you, hey, don't do this. Don't go and do this. But if you do it, You're free to do what you want to do. That's what God does. God actually, here's the crazy thing, and I heard this said by a pastor one time. God loves us so much that he is willing to let us choose hell even over him. And he gives us that free choice. And I'm going to tell you something. That's what I'm about. I'm about freedom. Period. End of story. Hey, fastest hour. We got 5 minutes left. Shout out to the strikers.
Shout out to strikers, baby.
Thank you, strikers. I also want to talk real quick tomorrow.
Yes, that's very important. Y'all got a great meeting coming up at 6.
We do. We have a meeting coming up that David Morgan and a lot of our commissioners are going to be there. We have some hard choices to make.
Right. The Lawrence County Republican Party is holding a town hall
for everybody.
For everybody.
Yes.
At the Lawrence County Courthouse upstairs at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening.
Yes, to discuss that we're facing some hard choices that have got to be made because of the cost of the trash and everything. Maybe part of this deflation will hit this back again, but at least right now we've had this happen. It happened like 3 months ago, and
it's sad. It's hit everything.
Yeah.
But one thing, a piece of advice for any Lawrence County commissioner or your county executive, David Morgan. Shout out to David Morgan. Mm-hmm. This should not go on property tax.
You know what? And I was talking to Brandon. I was talking to Brandon today, and David Morgan told Brandon that he would even veto it if the county commissioners brought that up. Now, I don't think our county commissioners are going to do that. Okay, but I want to hit that from the. If it came from Brandon Taylor's mouth, then I'm going to trust it. Or I normally wouldn't say it unless I heard it myself, but I will Brandon. Brandon said that David specifically said no to increase in property taxes to pay for this.
Right.
So, but that's part of what this town forum is about, Chris. I want to touch on this because we got 3 minutes left. But I need everybody to be there tomorrow, 6 p.m., upper floor courthouse. Do you not see, this is very important, at least to me, to point this out. Lawrence County Courthouse, our executive, our county commissioners, you want to talk about being upfront and open? They're transparent. Okay. Whether you agree or disagree with what's going to happen, I will tell you this. If you don't show up and make your voices and not make your voice at least heard, don't come to me and tell me about it later.
Don't cry about it.
Don't cry about it because you stayed home and watched Dancing with the Stars instead of coming out and doing something about it.
I want to say this. Everybody that comes, of course, when you talk about increasing property tax or increasing fees.
Increasing fees.
And it needs to be a fee.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to be perfectly clear. This is my opinion. You do not put it on the backs of the taxpayers because there's more than that select few of people who pay property tax that are benefiting from this service. So I don't know what the structure is. I'm looking forward to hearing it because I'm going to be in attendance tomorrow evening as well.
Absolutely.
And, like I said, what goes on in Lawrence can trickle over to Giles.
And it can.
And, it has that trickle down effect. But everybody needs to come cordial, be very cordial. I know tempers flare sometimes.
There's no reason for tempers to flare.
There's no reason.
We are in this together.
That's right.
Nothing is being held back. We are opening up the veil. And I shouldn't say just we. I'm talking about David Morgan doesn't have to do this. Our county commissioners don't have to do this. They are choosing to do this because they want your input.
And shout out to them because that is great. That's being very transparent.
That is. So I want to touch on this. We don't have much time, but I do want to touch on this.
T-2.
That's right. We have the Maryland court.
Oh, Lord. I seen that.
Did you see that?
Yes.
So we talked about this last week, how the courts have struck down so many of these gun laws and gun rules. Not laws, they're rules Okay, rules for thee, but not for me. Yeah. Or I'm sorry. Yeah. So they have said this, and this right here is really important. They have said that they are not going to do what the federal court said that they had to do. This is what Maryland's doing. They're going against the federal court.
They're going against the federal Constitution.
That is because it's against the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment.
Okay.
And that's where Maryland is wrong.
That absolutely.
We're down to the last 30 seconds.
All right, I'm going to take us out of here. Please, everybody show up tomorrow.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, courthouse, to hear about it. God bless America. God bless the state of Tennessee. God bless our area. I'm not even going to say Lawrence County, all of our area.
All of this area of the great state of Tennessee, and shout out to Strikers.
Shout out to Strikers. God bless everybody. We'll see you and talk to you Wednesday.